What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel and now welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed unless, of course, your taste level is lacking, girl. And if that's the case, you're not alone, but we are not your people. Y'all, I got on my little piece of nose and knees hair. I'm gonna go down to French's Chicken Girl, pretend like I'm Tina or Matthew Niece and see if they'll comp me a little piece of chicken. I think they'll go for it. So all my girls who said they want to lock their hair, but they're scared, do it, girl. You can still throw on a nice little piece of wig if you get to missing the look of having free hair. Y'all, we will be discussing the disappearance of Kayla Berg today, so I'm not gonna waste any time. I'm gonna get right into the timeline of events before my children wake up and start hopping around in the background and throwing each other into the baseboards. Hope Berg spends the summer of 2009 with her family in Texas and her 15-year-old daughter Kayla. She herself had grown up in Texas, but she had raised her two children in Anago, Wisconsin. And she always compared the way that she had grown up in Texas to the way that her kids had grown up in Anago, and kind of felt like she wished she was able to raise them where she was from. So around this time, she had thought Texas would be a good move. Now, her oldest son, Jimmy, has graduated from high school and decides to stay in Anago. But her daughter, Kayla, is open, thinking that Texas might potentially be a good move for them. However, they get there, and the high school that Kayla goes to does not have gymnastics, and this is her thing. Kayla is very passionate about it. Hope is also disappointed by the lack of opportunities. She expected the experience to be a lot different for both of them, but reality is not quite what either of them had envisioned. So in early August, just 2 weeks before Kayla turns 16, the two of them decide to return to Anago, which is bittersweet. Kayla is ready to get back to her hometown, her friends, gymnastics, of course, but her father, James, is now very ill, and this is part of the reason why Hope decided to just go ahead and move back. He is not expected to live much longer, and Hope would like for her daughter Kayla to spend as much time with him before time runs out. Now, Hope and James are separated back when Kayla was a toddler, but Kayla remains close to both of them throughout the years, splitting her time between them, but of course planning to spend a little bit more time with James, given his current health condition. And also, Hope needs to stay with a friend in the meantime to get back on her feet. So Kayla is living partly with James, her father, her grandparents, and sometimes she floats between her friends' households. When they return to Anago, Kayla not only reconnects with her friends, but an old boyfriend of hers, 19-year-old Miguel Marrero. And her parents do not approve of him, mostly due to the age gap. Another somebody that she is spending time with that her parents aren't too thrilled about is 24-year-old Kevin. Kevin is actually a really close friend of Jimmy's, which is Kayla's older brother. But despite his age, he's still very much active on the high school scene. A lot of people around town say that even though he is much older, mentally he's about on the same level as these teens. And why does it get the teens think he's not even on their level mentally? They definitely take advantage of his lack of mental maturity, oftentimes referring to him as the taxi driver of the group because he has this car. So he'd give a lot of them rides to like parties or basically wherever they wanted to ride to. He also, being much older, purchases their alcohol, anything that they are not old enough to buy. And it is a very common occurrence that a group of friends would get together, meet up with Kevin somewhere, and he would take them to like hang out in a park or go to a house party somewhere. And Miguel is very known to throw a lot of these house parties. Miguel's house has always been the party spot. Even when he moves into a new home about 35 miles away in a neighboring town, his house is still the go-to spot. The kids are sneaking out almost nightly. These are all things that were going on before Hope had moved Kayla to Texas and was part of the reason why she didn't want her kid in Anago anymore. Partying is something that she feared will resume when they get back, and of course it has. And between Miguel and Kayla, it seems as though they picked up right where they left off. Like they'd never broken up or lost any time. When her parents find out that she has been spending time with him again, they demand that she break things off with him and get more serious about her grades, which have taken a nosedive since she's found out about her father's diagnosis. But Miguel and the partying and her friends are all things that she is using to help cope with losing her father. So she continues. On August 9th of 2009, Kayla tells her mother Hope that she is spending the night with a friend named Natasha. Natasha tells her parents the same story, except she says that she's spending the night with Kayla. In reality, the two girls get together, they do a little partying, hang out, and spend the night somewhere else. Now, the following morning, when Natasha's mother is not able to reach her and she reaches out to Hope, the mothers realize that the kids pulled a fast one, okay? They are not at either home. But before they allow themselves to become too worried, they figure that the girls might have, pulled a fast one, went out to party, lost track of time, and would turn up. However, as the day goes on and they do not, both mothers become very worried and decide to go to the police station about their daughters. Now, during this process, they find out that the girls are safe and sound. They're just over in the next town, and there's nothing to worry about. Later on, Kayla calls her mother and lets her know where she'd be hanging out in the park with some friends so that she's not worried. And around 5 p.m., Natasha has to head out because Mama has a job and she needs to leave. Everyone goes their separate ways, and Kayla and Kevin make plans to meet up later to hang out. Kayla goes back to her dad's house for a couple of hours, and about 8:45, Kevin arrives to pick her up so they can hang out. She yells to her dad, James, from the other room that she's headed out with a friend and she'd be back in a couple of hours. He says okay, and she's out the door. They don't have too much planned. Kayla knows about a party that's going on with Jimmy's friends. She calls him and he tells her that she cannot come to the party with him, okay? He's not trying to hang out with his little sister tonight. And so she and Kevin just drive around the town aimlessly, smoking on the devil's lettuce, just vibing and blowing time. And then Kayla asks Kevin to drive her to see a friend that works at a McDonald's. They arrive at about 9:30 and he waits for her inside of the car while she goes in and talks with her friend, but they decide not to keep him waiting long. The friend says bye to her and Kevin and they pull off. And at this point, Kayla just asks Kevin to drop her off at a friend's house and gives him the address to the house, which is about a 40-minute drive from where they currently are. The following morning, Kayla's father, James, awakes to find that his daughter has not returned home from the night before. He calls Kevin, who tells him that at about 10:30 p.m. he had dropped her off at a friend's house and he had not heard from her since. So with that information, James just waits it out. He figures, she had stayed out with a friend instead of coming home and she will turn up at some point in the day. When she doesn't, he assumes that maybe she went to spend the night with her mother instead of returning home to his house. So he reaches out to Hope and finds that that is not the case at all. And no one has heard from her, not her grandparents, not her mother. And Kayla does not have a cell phone for anyone to directly reach out to her. Her older brother, Jimmy, had not heard from her either, not since she'd called him asking about their party that he told her she couldn't come to. They continued to reach out to other friends and no one has heard from Kayla. Now, because Kayla is known to hop between her friends' homes and they had just had the scare where she was actually just hanging out with a friend and they had gone to file a whole missing persons report, this time they decide to just wait it out a little bit longer. When 6 days go by and there is still no Kayla, James reaches out to the friend again, Kevin, asking him for the address of where he had dropped off Kayla, because that is seemingly the last time anyone saw her. Kevin gives him the address and it is a now condemned abandoned house that Miguel lived in before he moved to his new residence, which sounds very weird, but Kevin insists that he knows nothing more, that Kayla asked him to drop her off here and that was it. He did not question her and he does not know if she was meeting Miguel there or another friend. He doesn't know anything. He just did what he was told and he left. Now this sounds very odd, of course. So at this point, her parents decide to go to the police and report her missing. They explained to them with how much she had hopped between houses. They figured that's what she was doing and that was the reason behind the delay and that they wanted to make attempts, you know, to find their daughter on their own before they go rushing into the police station again. Police speak with Beth, who is the friend that she stopped to see at the McDonald's. They figured that they'd start there since that's the last known place that she was seen. And the friend Beth tells them that when Kayla had stopped, she seemed like her normal self, but she didn't mention going to see any friends or Miguel at any point in the night. She had told Beth that the plan for the evening was just to ride around with Kevin and smoke in his car for a couple of hours and then go back home. And she tells Beth that she will call her once she got home. But when that call never comes, Beth just figures that maybe she got home late or she forgot. Of course, investigators are eager to speak with Kevin, who very casually and calmly speaks with them. His story is the exact same as it was the morning that James had called him looking for his daughter, that he had simply dropped her off where she'd asked to be taken. And even though it was fairly dark and it was an abandoned house that no one appeared to even be at, according to Kevin, he did not wait around to see who had met her there or if anyone came out. Nothing. He just dropped the young girl off in the dark, pulled out of the driveway. Her parents found that to be extremely odd because they didn't think that their daughter would even be comfortable out there at night at an abandoned house, not even if it was the old home of her boyfriend. And speaking of the boyfriend, Kayla of course knows that Miguel no longer lives there, so what would be the reason for her to be dropped off at his old abandoned house? She's been to the new house several times. Next, they speak with Miguel, who says that he has not heard from Kayla at all. He denies that she came to his house that night, that he met her at his old abandoned house that night, or had any idea why she would want to go there. And they don't have anything to prove him to be lying, but they do grow a little bit suspicious of Miguel when rumors begin to swirl that Kayla was pregnant by Miguel. She had found out and he was not happy about it. Remind you, she is a minor. When police ask him about a sexual relationship with her, he does not admit to that. And this is the point where he decides to lawyer up. He decides he's done talking to police and he has given them everything that they're gonna get. Investigators are not quite sure which of the two guys is responsible, but they believe that one of them is responsible. They just can't prove it. But what they can do is hit Kevin with charges for what he has admitted to doing with Kayla the night that she had gone missing. They charge him with reckless endangerment for providing drugs to a minor and dropping her off at an abandoned house at night and not making sure that she was okay. By the time Kevin's court date comes up, Kayla is still missing. And without a victim or any evidence, his case is dismissed. Countless hours are spent by search teams scouring the city of Anago looking for Kayla, but yield no results. Not a shred of evidence comes up and no viable information comes forward. Sadly, 2 years after Kayla's disappearance, her father James loses his battle with his illness, never finding out what had happened to his daughter. Miguel has continued to maintain that he never saw her that night, and Kevin's story has never changed, even though it don't make sense. They had pressed him for more information about like what she had on that night or anything that he could remember about her that would help them in their search, but he claims that he could not remember that. And when they had asked him where he had gone after he had dropped her off, he tells them that he had driven back to his parents' house for the night, which would have been about an hour drive, and his mother actually corroborates that. By Kevin's mother's account of the evening, he had arrived home at about the exact time that would have put him home had he dropped her off at 10:30 and then driven back an hour. Both men, Miguel and Kevin, refused to take lie detector tests that would be set up by the investigators. Both of their vehicles, though, are processed for forensic evidence. Cadaver dogs are used on both vehicles and they get a hit on Kevin's car, but not Miguel's car. However, this could not be used as sufficient evidence to prove that he had done something to her, when one could argue that they're picking up the scent in his car because she was in his car, which he had admitted to. Now, with Miguel specifically, there are some things that law enforcement believe him to be lying about. He had told investigators that he had not seen nor spoken to Kayla since a house party that had taken place at his new residence the week before she had gone missing. Now, because she does not have a cell phone and she depended on like friends' phones, it was not easy to tell from his phone records definitively what calls had come from Kayla. They are also able to tell that his cell phone pinged off of towers about 40 miles away from where she had been dropped off that night, around the time that Kevin said that he had dropped her off. And they can see that on the night that Kayla had gone missing, he had received 2 phone calls from an unknown number, and he refuses to tell police where the calls had come from, who they were. Now, does that mean that the calls were Kayla or that they were related to her disappearance? Not necessarily, but possibly. They go out and search the area where he was when his cell phone was pinging off of these towers, and nothing. They also searched the condemned house. There was nothing there that they found to be incriminating. And when they look into Kevin's phone, they find that on the night that she had disappeared, Kevin's phone had either died or been shut off at around 9 p.m. and was not powered back on until 2 p.m. the following day. Now, one could argue that that was suspicious, but it's not too far-fetched to believe that maybe that's the time that he had woken up the next day. I'm not gaping for him, I'm just saying. At this point, people around town either believe that Miguel had something to do with it or Kevin had something to do with it. Or maybe they were in cahoots. In an effort to clear his name, Miguel goes and has an independent lie detector test taken with a private firm, and he passes. He turns over his results to the investigators, but Kayla's mother is not convinced of the test's validity. Both men remain on the list of suspects. However, investigators do consider the possibility that both men are telling the truth and neither of them had anything to do with Kayla's disappearance. What if she did get dropped off here for whatever reason and met trouble after Kevin had pulled out of the driveway? But even looking at it at this angle doesn't bring any new information or anything of substance to light. They then toy with the idea of her being a runaway. From what they had gathered, she was having a really tough time dealing with what was going on with her father. She was neglecting her grades and partying, and to them this sounded really on brand for a runaway. Now, the runaway idea does not last too long before they are back to looking at this as a disappearance, an involuntary disappearance. Even still, no matter how they look at it, they can't find out anything. In 2016, 7 years after her disappearance, a very strange video hits YouTube. A very goofy looking young man records himself in his home saying that he has a new girlfriend for you, the viewer, to take a look at. Then he opens the door to this dark bathroom where a girl is chained to the floor, crying and pleading with him to free her. Now, the video on its own is a little bit weird, but the fact that the girl in the video has hair, like dark brown hair, similar to Kayla's, and physically looks like Kayla and sounds like her, according to people who know her personally. Her own mother believes it to be her daughter in the video. The young man in the video closes the door as the girl continues to cry. He goes on to record himself, and you can hear her in the background wailing. And the video, although it's just gaining traction in 2016, was uploaded to YouTube just 2 months after Kayla had gone missing. Now, to police and to myself, the video looks like a skit, but of course they have to take any and all leads seriously and look into it, especially with a mother who is also believing this is her child. But once they get down to the bottom of the video, they find that it is in fact a skit. That granted, it obviously took place down in somebody's basement, and of course for like the vibe of the video, obviously it would, but it had a whole production team and 2 actors who had no idea about Kayla's disappearance or anything. Now, granted, this video doesn't bring any closure to Hope regarding her daughter's whereabouts, but on the bright side, it does leave her with some hope that her daughter will be returned to her. And the attention that the video got did bring a lot of attention back to her daughter's case. It got a lot of people talking about it again and got it back in the news cycle and had people sharing her daughter's information again. So that was a good thing. A $20,000 reward was offered for anybody who had any information that could lead to the confirmed whereabouts of Kayla, but unfortunately her whereabouts remain undisclosed. This is a super unfortunate case. I personally believe that Kevin knows what happened. I don't at all buy I dropped her off in the dark, child, and I don't know what happened. It just makes no sense. Now, whether or not she had plans to meet Miguel there and the whole pregnancy thing was true, I don't know. But it sounds like if Kevin's elevator did not go to the top floor, then he could probably easily be talked into some sinister plot. And a lot of people share the sentiments that I have, that Kevin has something to do with it or he knows something. Child, during my research, I came across this video of the news people chasing him down at his job, honey, asking him questions, and he just had nothing to say. Overall, terrible, very sad story. I'm sure that at this point, Hope would rather know a hard truth than still be in limbo, not knowing what happened to her daughter, and hopefully she can get that closure someday. Please let me know what your thoughts are down below on this case. Please also share, subscribe if you have not. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. Now today we are getting into the disappearance of Kayla Berg. Today y'all today we blah 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 blah. She had grown up there, but she had raised her 2 children in Antigua, Wisconsin, not Washington. Now, Hope and James had separated when the kids... No. Now, Hope and James had separated when Kayla was... It seems as though things have picked up right before... What? Not right before they left off. Right where they left off. My goodness. Is the wig too tight, baby? Is the wig tight? Things... Okay. No. Spending a night. Like, come on now. I deserve to have an easy film. To drop her off at a friend's house and gives her the... Okay, no. Gives him. At this point, Kevin just says... Okay, no. Not Kevin. At this point... If y'all can hear Bella licking back there, baby, y'all know the vibes. Unless you knew. Police speak with Beth, who is the friend that worked at the McDonald's. Okay. Or she forgot. Of course, investigators are eager to speak. Okay, no. Easy to speak. Girl. Grrr. Where my lashes at? Girl, you acting like a rookie today, girl. It's giving rookie. Baby, it's gonna be this little highlight right here. They give me that comp chicken meal down at Frenchie's with them believing that I'm a nose girl. I could go for Tina Little Niece or whatever.